All right, everybody. Thank you all for tuning in to another episode. Today, we have a very special topic that I feel like is ultra relevant. It's always been relevant and it's still relevant to this day. And the topic is the need for buyers to take that first step, which is the very most important first step for any buyer entering the market. And that step is what, Josie?
Pre-qualification. Sorry, I was on mute. Pre-qualification, of course. Hello.
Pre-qualification.
Ding, ding,
And,
ding.
we run into this on a daily basis, do we not, Josie? It's a very common theme. And we understand that some buyers have hesitation to get pre-qualified. We understand that it's a process. Sometimes they want to keep their information confidential, but the importance of it is so big. One of the big things is a buyer can shop confidently and they shop a lot differently when they know what they can afford.
Mhm.
So, Josie, let me ask you, what's one of the biggest mistakes that you see buyers make when they start shopping for homes before getting pre-qualified?
Getting their hopes up, getting their hopes up or having unrealistic expectations. I hate when this happens. When buyers go and you have some houses, they pick out some houses, you show them, they fall in love with them, and then down the pipeline, it's out of the range that they're trying to stay within. It's going to make them, it's going to put them in a very uncomfortable financial spot if they were to select that home in that price point. So then they kind of set themselves up for, you know, um, just kind of like, well, this is the caliber of home that I'm looking for. And then when they don't pre-qualify for that amount for whatever reason, or maybe, it's out of their budget, it kind of sets them up to be like, well, do I deserve less than, or something like that. So I always love for buyers to get pre-qualified first because we can shop in that price range, that price point, that comfortable budget for them and find them the house that checks off all their boxes in that range. So that's one of the biggest mistakes. I think they just kind of, fall in love with the house that they just can't obtain at that time.
And that's 100% right. One of the big misconceptions that I think a lot of people have, and I've been guilty of this. I remember the very first time I went to go get pre-qualified for a home, I didn't understand all the ins and outs.
Mhm.
And I didn't know that it was going to be the kind of process that it really is. But here's one thing that I really think buyers get confused with is they say, I have a job, I have good credit, I make good money. Therefore, it shouldn't be a problem
Shouldn't
for
be
me.
a problem. Those are the magic words, right? Oh, I'll
I'll
qualify. It won't
qualify.
be a problem. It's always a
And
problem.
lending, especially in today's world, is a very complex industry.
Hmm.
There's so many different things that go into it. It's not only your credit, it's not only your income. There's other things that they take into account.
Hmm.
Josie's been with me. We've been out in the field and we start the conversation and the buyer says, well, I haven't been pre-qualified yet. And I say, okay, well, that's the most important first step. I say, well, does my wife need to be included? Yes. In most cases, yes. Unless it's an investment property, there's a lot of different nuances there. And just to clarify, Josie and I are not lenders, but we've been in the business 10 years or more, and we've
Hmm.
seen our fair share of situations working closely with our lender colleagues. So a lot of people think I make money, shouldn't be a problem. And then we start talking about some nuances. Okay, well, these are the property taxes. This is what your monthly payment's gonna look like. These are some of the things that you'll need to take into account, your homeowner's insurance and this and that. And then they say, well, I saw on Zillow. I love that. That's one
I
of my
was
favorite.
just about to say that. I
That's
saw
one of
on
my favorite
Zillow.
quotes. I
Yeah.
saw that this $450,000 house is only going to be $1,200 a month. Wrong. Right? That in what universe is that ever going to happen? So,
And why is that? Why is Zillow saying it's only
well, in
1200?
most cases, those kind of websites, they're not taking into account the property taxes and the insurance. And they're
Mm-hmm.
probably quoting, a low rate, taking into account 20% down. It's like the fine print. I always love to make a joke about it when you see the car commercials or it's always truck month, right? Truck month, $98 a month. You know what? Get a GMC Sierra 0% for $99 a month. That's a $50,000 truck. What?
Or all like those medication commercials you see all the time.
For
It's
sure.
always like, oh, happy, happy people. And then always like in real quiet, very, very fast spoken verbiage, like may cause, da, 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 da. Like there's nuances in everything. So it's like the Zestimate, what the Zestimate's not accurate. The Zillow payment amount is not accurate. Plus, are you in an HOA? Like that's going to be a separate thing as well. So there's always so many situations. And that's why talking to a lender is super important.
It is. So here's another point here. Not only is it important for the buyer, because we all have busy schedules. The buyers, our customers, our clients, they have busy schedules, families, jobs, obligations. So do we. Our job is to show homes and do all this other kind of cool stuff. And we're very lucky and blessed to be in the industry that we're in. But you start wondering if this buyer is unaware of what they can qualify for, is this a waste of time? I never think it's a quote unquote waste of time because for me, with every customer or every client, it's not a question of if, it's just a question of when. But what I really want to point out is you have to think about the seller.
Mhm.
The price of a home is what a buyer's willing to pay and what a seller's willing to sell it for. Now, if we have a buyer, and I'm going through a situation like this right now, we've had multiple showings on the same property, and the buyer, to my, despite my best efforts, the buyer wanted to wait to get pre-qualified. Now they're in the process, and it's been a week. So now the seller is getting worried. Hey, what's going on? We've had multiple showings. I thought this buyer was interested. Are they not interested? Are they on shaky ground? Is this should the seller be worried? So of course our fiduciaries to the buyer, we're going to do everything we can for the buyer, but the sellers are going to take it a lot better, whatever offer it is, even if it's a more aggressive offer, when you supply that pre-qual letter, or even better, a pre-approval.
Mhm.
Okay, so Josie, I want to ask you and tell me some of your experience. Have you ever seen a buyer lose a home because they weren't pre-qualified?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Numerous times, unfortunately. And it's like you said, even though we try our best efforts to set them up for success before they begin home shopping, there have been times, even in this current situation, where you have some clients who are in love with a home and, we're just kind of, okay, well, let's get you with the lender. And they want to, get their family's opinion about it. And they want to, they start envisioning themselves in the home. Like, this is where I want to raise my kids, or this is where I want to start the next chapter of my life. And then they begin that process very late in the game after they already have their sights set on a home. And during that waiting period of them, maybe discussing with the lender or disclosing items to a lender, the seller, in my case, in my experience with the buyer, the seller received another offer and they lost the home. And they were heartbroken because they were like, no, we loved this house. Like, what can we do? What can we do? And it's like, What you could have done was talk to a lender before you saw it. you know, don't
Bingo.
fall in love with the house. You don't, if you go to a car lot, you have every intent on buying a car, so you have already kind of, gone through that process in your head. Nobody's just go shopping just to go casually shop. If you're shopping, you kind of have an idea of what you're looking for, but you have to set yourself up for success for when you do find it, you are ready to go. You are ready to make a move. So, yes, I've had buyers lose a house and have either they did not pre qualify or the waiting period, another offer came in and the house was sold.
That's 100% right. We always tell people you wouldn't walk into a grocery store without your wallet. If you're going
Exactly.
into the grocery store, you need to have some money, you need to have some cash, you need to have your credit card. If you walk into the grocery store without a wallet, you can't buy any groceries. It's the same
I love a
concept.
grocery store. I love a grocery store. That's the place I like to go. But I also have a budget, like I have an
Correct.
idea in mind of what I'm going to spend. So it's like, can I afford to buy the treats, that I want to treat myself with this week? Or do I want to stick to my list, but I have a list and I have a budget and I have
So
a
that's perfect.
range.
That
Mhm.
leads me to my
Oh,
next
go
point
ahead.
is the budget.
Hmm.
The good thing here is when a buyer gets with a lender before the process starts, in many cases, it's going to uncover things that they didn't even know that maybe they qualify for.
Mhm.
Maybe they qualify for a little bit more than they thought. Maybe it can get them a little bit more house. Maybe they qualify for a grant program, down payment assistance. Maybe the lender can help them increase their credit, which is going to lower their interest rate, lower their mortgage insurance, whatever the case
Sometimes
is.
it's good news.
Sometimes it's good news.
It's great news.
It's not always bad news.
Yeah.
And the other thing is they'll know, okay, well, here's my maximum. Maybe I don't want to go for my maximum. I'm comfortable here. And now we're really playing ball. This is what I run into this every day. If I show you a $450,000 house, you're going to love it. If I show you an $800,000 house, you're going to love it. But you need to know if you have that kind of buying power. Because if I walk you into a $500,000 house and your budget is 220, now you're in a different playing field, completely different price point. So we want to
And
make sure that you,
taxes.
of
Taxes would
course,
be different too.
taxes, insurance, everything, the insurance and even just the maintenance.
Mhm.
The maintenance on a $500,000 house, if it's, upgrades here and there, and maybe it has a pool, maybe it has water softener, maybe it has landscaping, whatever it is,
Mhm.
just the maintenance on a higher dollar property is going to be more.
Mhm.
So, Josie, tell me in all your years in working with buyers, that I know you've worked with buyers that were surprised when they talk to a
Mhm.
lender. What surprises buyers the most after they have that conversation with a lender? Maybe it's good surprises, maybe it's bad surprises. What have you noticed?
I've had a little bit of both. I've had good surprises and some other surprises as well. I think the biggest thing that they don't really realize because they don't know this, they're not buying a house every day, so they are not aware of these things. But sometimes, they get approved for grants or they can put, concessions towards a rate buy down,
Well, here's the other thing. A lot of buyers are excited when they learn that they can put 3%, 3.5%
Yes,
down.
definitely. There's like that giant myth that you need 20% down and that is a complete myth. If you're a first-time home buyer, you can qualify for an FHA and honestly, like speak to a lender about it. I am not a lender. But you could get into a house for as low as, 3.5%. Always best to talk to an expert in the field, but you don't need 20% down. So when they find out they can actually pocket that money and put it in a nest egg or a little emergency egg or whatever they need, they're just thrilled. They're thrilled.
Well, and here's the other thing. Some buyers don't realize that they qualify for down payment assistance.
Mm-hmm.
So sometimes they can get in with no money, especially if we can negotiate the closing costs to be covered and they have their down payment assistance helping them out. The other thing is a lot of buyers don't realize that they can utilize a gift.
Yes.
If they
And,
have friends or family, they can help them.
I didn't realize that there are so many loan options out there for different occupations as
That's
well.
true too.
So, you know, I think we had an experience where we had a physician's loan, and then we've had, a teacher's grant or what some sort of teacher loan program. And I didn't know about those things, but I learned about them from talking to a lender, and the lender would speak with the client, find out more about their occupation. And, a lender does this day in, day out. They know the programs out there that are designed to help buyers. So that's why speaking to a lender about that is super important. And you may not realize you qualify for certain programs or certain things that are going to help save you money in the long run.
Exactly, exactly. And so, Josie, thank you for taking time out of your schedule. This is just something that we really wanted to have an open, candid chat about because it is important. Now, here's
Mhm.
in closing, here's what I want to leave everyone with. Getting pre-qualified doesn't mean that you have to buy tomorrow.
Mhm.
It doesn't mean that you have to buy next week, next month. Usually, a pre-qualification is good for anywhere from 3 to 6 months, usually, depending on the lender. But here's what a pre-qualification is for. So that way you know your options. You can shop confidently. And now we know where a good range is going to be for you, your budget. That way you're not stretched too thin. So, in closing, I know we've been talking about it over and over and over again, but Josie, what's the most important first step for any buyer?
Getting pre-qualified.
Getting pre-qualified. So if y'all need any assistance whatsoever, we have some fantastic lender colleagues that we work with, ranging anywhere from first-time buyer specialists, VA specialists. If you need someone for investment properties, DSCR loans, portfolio product, whatever you're looking for, we have some amazing colleagues all throughout Texas. So give Josie a call. We're going to put Josie's contact down below. Give
Ooh.
me a call. I'll put my contact down below. Call any one of us. And don't forget, happy shopping, get pre qualified, and we will help you get into your dream home. Thank y'all for
Let's find
taking the
you a
time.
house.
Appreciate it, guys. Take care.